Welcome back again, everyone, to Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. We are coming to you here in the post-Spooktober era of our podcast, coming at you with episode 40 already today, guys. You believe that?
That is kind of nuts.
40. We're heading up on a year if we keep this moving another 12 episodes. Holy crap. That's nice. Hard to believe, but I'm Cody, and I'll be hosting tonight's episode on a certain TV show, which we'll talk about in just a second. But we also have with us here, in honor of the upcoming election day, two titans of terror, both in their respective corners here tonight. Justin, the liberal hound dog, and Joe, the conservative beacon.
Hey, everybody. Thought I'd take a different approach this week.
That's fine. It was too confusing. I couldn't understand the language. Throwback to before the air. Anyway, what are you guys been up to recently?
Well, November is National Novel Writing Month, and I, after taking a few years away from it, I've actually gotten back into it. Trying something a little more experimental this time around, not a traditional novel, but just a sort of side project. More or less for my own mental health, not something I'm looking to get published necessarily, but it does feel good to get back and putting things on paper again, because it's, well, COVID, the last 2 years post-COVID have been bizarre, and it feels good to get back to something I do genuinely enjoy doing and that I haven't done for a really long time. So that's been me for at least the past couple of days here.
Nice.
Well, that sounds super exciting. I heard you also attended an epic Halloween party.
Oh, yes, of course. From what I remember of it. I do remember
that was me.
Pretty much. Yeah, I do remember all of this one. That was a lot of fun, thrown by our friend Cody himself.
Never heard of him.
And yeah, he always goes all out on these. And this year it was above and beyond. Like, you damn near killed yourself in setting this thing up. You damn near killed yourself, during the party itself.
That's also a fact.
Some people are sad he didn't.
Oh,
that's also a fact.
But
any of them commented on my TikTok page just yesterday.
But if I were wearing a hat right now, I would tip it to you, sir, because that was an incredible amount of effort that you put towards that.
Well, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Joe, we haven't seen you in a month because you avoided all things scary. So how have you been?
It's true. And like, the ironic thing is, listening to your horror movie and horror game episodes, I feel like I could have probably taken part in those episodes. Turns out I had seen like a decent amount of those movies and played a decent amount of those games, but
nice.
It's good to be back on the podcast. I'm gonna get real for a second here. Hold on to your pants.
I'm not wearing pants.
I have shorts on.
Oh, even better. I sit before you. I know that it doesn't show, but I weigh currently 13 pounds less than I did the last time I saw you gentlemen.
Woo!
Oh my God, what happened to your arm?
I know. It's weird. I think on one of the previous podcasts, my sort of thing I talked about was exercise and how that can be a good thing to do. And I'm gonna get real for a second here and say that another good thing to do is maybe occasionally take a step back and think about where you're at with your life and where you're going and maybe where you would like to be going and maybe reevaluate some things.
Oh.
I mean, I'm not trying to get like too cryptic or dark here, but
this is Joe's last episode.
You're not joining a cult, are you?
No.
Again.
No, I just kind of realized that I needed to make some changes and establish some healthier habits in my life. So I've been doing the Mediterranean diet, which has been working really well for me so far. It basically consists of eating mostly plant-based foods with some other things mixed in kind of more rarely. And I've been working out a bunch and it seems to be working so far.
Nice.
Awesome.
Also, I mean, along those lines, I took today off of work because work has been a nightmare recently. And so I felt like I needed a mental health day. So I took today off and I went and hiked a bunch of miles this morning. And then I played some video games. And I highly recommend looking after your own mental health. And, you know, if you have the ability to take some time off, encourage people to do that.
That's awesome.
Solid advice.
on a less somber note,
I don't know if it was somber, but
the game I was playing today, which is one that I am playing for like the third time now, is The Witcher 3.
Oh wow.
Which is widely regarded as one of the greatest video games ever made, and I think that's with good reason. It's one of my favorites. I'm doing a new game plus on it, which is cool because you get to start with the level that you had at the end of your previous game and like at least some of your equipment. So it's kind of a different experience.
You know who's not playing The Witcher these days?
Is it you?
No,
Is it Henry Cavill?
It is Henry Cavill.
I know, I'm really sad about that. I'm so, like, that show is honestly not great, but I love Henry Cavill and like it's fun just because of that. But
I was just sad to hear they replaced him with Tommy Wiseau.
Oh, hi, Jennifer. Anyway, one last thing I want to give a shout out to, which you guys need to, at least one of you needs to watch this.
Okay.
Is the ongoing Disney Plus series Andor, which is the latest Star Wars live action series.
Okay.
And I was talking to one of my other friends about this earlier. I think it might be the best Star Wars thing since the original trilogy. Come at me, people.
Whoa.
Okay, hold on.
It's like, okay, so here's
that's kind of a low bar.
Well,
here's okay. Fisticuffs are coming.
Listen, without trying not to get spoilery, here's my pitch for Andor. It's what I have wanted from Star Wars for a long time. It actually, ironically, it's a spinoff of Rogue One, which is a movie that I didn't love. But
one of the
I feel like
movies of the franchise.
Andor is what I wanted Rogue One to be, and that is it's firmly a Star Wars property, but it is also feels removed from like all of the other Star Wars stuff. And the thing I like most about it is it feels very grounded and very kind of like real and gritty. Like it you know, you believe that it's set in that universe, but the characters feel like real people, and like it gets really dark at times, and like there's like a weight to it that I feel like is missing from a lot of the Star Wars stuff. And I mean, honestly, I feel like even someone who has never seen a Star Wars before would probably still enjoy it because it is just so like well written and acted and produced, and like it tells, you know, kind of a ground level story. I mean, there's a decent amount of action in it, but like that is not the emphasis. Like it is very much character based and, you know, focused on these people who are kind of like struggling with these different situations that they're in. But I think it's phenomenal. There's 9 episodes out as of this week. I think there are going to be 12 total this season, which is I think the most out of any of the Disney Plus series. But I mean, I think it's astounding so far. So I mean, I would love for some other folks in our group to watch it and maybe do a recap at some point.
Starting tomorrow.
Do it.
We were good to start tonight, but we will watch Stranger Things because I didn't know how long it would be till we started this. So
nice.
And I've got some time off lined up after the midterm elections, so that might be, you know, a nice escape from reality during that. So yeah, I'll check it out.
Sweet.
It's funny you say that because I thought The Mandalorian was what I wanted episode 8 to be, and by that I mean enjoyable. So there's that.
I feel like that maybe that's our first anniversary episode is
yes, it's been a long time coming.
Either just The Last Jedi or the sequel trilogy overall.
Okay. I'd be down for either of those.
I'll have to be drinking again by then.
Joe's gonna gain all 13 pounds back in one episode, and then stress lose 20 in this meantime. So there we go. All right, sweet guys. Well, I of course was at the Halloween party as well here. So now that that's over, I actually have a little bit of time. And independent of Joe's comment here, I had kind of made a goal, but it's probably unrealistic for myself. But I've been trying it this week of splitting 3 single hours in my day into 1 hour devoted to taking down the Halloween party, which is going to take me weeks to do. 1 hour of catching up on grading for school, which I neglected quite a bit while I was doing the Halloween party, and then 1 hour of mental self-care, I guess, basically mental break here for myself. So I've been playing a little bit of video games a couple days this week. I got back into Fire Emblem Three Hopes again, and I was hoping Karen and I'll get back into Rings of Power again here soon too. So we'll see. I didn't get to free time today because I had to run around and try to find a suit/tuxedo at the last second here for tomorrow night. So that was a problem. But
What's tomorrow night?
we have a charity gala we're going to, or gala, I guess you'd say, right? Yeah.
I would say gala myself, but
I would say Gal Gadot,
Yeah.
but that's just me. Anyway,
Well,
but
that
lots
sounds
of plans for the coming weeks and months, I hope, and good fun
Nice.
things coming up here. We're going to see Wicked next week in Chicago on Wednesday. The kids are suddenly very big into Wicked. It just happens to be on tour in Chicago at the moment, so
That's
we're
cool.
gonna
Nice.
hit that up, and I feel like we got something else coming up too, but I don't know. Anyway, Black Panther's coming out soon as well, so
Isn't it next weekend, right?
yeah, I think so. I
Wow.
couldn't believe it. Somebody had posted that on our Facebook page and was like, "Holy crap, that's coming soon." That seemed
Yeah.
like it was forever away this year, November. I was like,
I know. I was like, what?
"Good luck with that."
Yeah, especially because earlier this week it was like 60 degrees, 70 degrees in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Oh,
In
That's
November.
crazy.
So yeah, it does not feel like November at all to
It's
me.
been in the 60s here lately. Like I think next week we're supposed to finally get down in the 40s.
Yeah, it's been super nice here too, but it's hard to take all that nice at its face value, knowing that it's not probably a good thing. So
Yeah.
there's that as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will jump into this tonight, ladies and gents. We are headed to a TV show, which we did the premiere. I think do I just one episode on this one? Yeah, we did one on this one, right? We did
Captain
two on this-
America Fox.
How could we forget that classic line? So we're headed back to She-Hulk:
Daredevil also Fox. What?
Attorney at Law, the Disney Plus show that we saw the first episode of. We're finally getting back around into the total season review here. Pushed back a bit because we had the Spooktober season that we went through on Friends Occasionally Not Disagreeing. So I guess to start us off here, we maybe talked a little bit about format tonight, maybe just starting with a brief episode recap, but doing it in such a way that we're kind of talking about the new characters that were introduced episode by episode, and what we thought of them as the show went on, and also some of the plot points, and maybe some of the set scenes, and anything else the gents want to jump in here on as far as comedy or drama or whatever else. A lot of comments out there online about this show. That's for sure.
Boy, howdy.
Was there a comment there? Oh, I thought I heard a comment there. Okay. All right, so we'll start off episode 1, and I don't have the episode names, just the recaps here, but episode 1 we already covered, so we'll just do this briefly. Jennifer Walters is our main character here, who also doubles as She-Hulk when she transforms. This is her telling the story about her and Bruce getting in the car crash with the Sicarian spacecraft, which does kind of come back into the show later on, I guess. Maybe not fully explained, but there's that. But anyway, she ends up with his blood, if you recall, and makes her transform into her own version of Hulk. And they go to Mexico, where she learns to use her new powers, although she doesn't really need a lot of help, as it turns out, it looks like. And then I believe the big death in this one, I think, right in the first episode, was the bar. So another moment
Yes.
Yeah, R.I.P.
Rip
moment
Tiki
of
bar.
silence there for the
Tony
bar.
helped him build that bar.
And then episode 1 ends with Titania storming into the courtroom, and She-Hulk promptly knocking her out in like 1 second. We were like, what is this show going to be about?
Yeah.
Very climactic.
Yeah. So
Episode 1, by the way, titled A Normal Amount of Rage.
there we go. So I think we
Okay.
covered that one pretty well already, but let's jump on to episode 2 here. Do you have a title for us, Joe?
Superhuman Law.
Superhuman Law. Okay, so she gets the nickname She-Hulk as it goes through here, and the court case that she was on is declared a mistrial because the fight with Titania influenced the jury, it is declared. She loses her job, but then is offered a position with the opposing counsel, who is Goodman, Lieber, Kurtzberg, and Holloway, or GLK and H. And she takes the job just because she needs a job, and brings her friend Nikki along as paralegal. So what do you guys think of Nikki in this season?
I mean, I've seen worse sidekick characters.
Yeah, I mean, I thought she was good. Like, I don't know. I guess I didn't have strong feelings one way or the other, but yeah,
Mhm.
she is very much just kind of a like plucky sidekick BFF character.
Yeah, a good bit of comic relief here and there, but yeah, didn't really stand out, or in a good way or a bad way to me. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
she was
I
all right.
agree.
I kind of agree. I was reading on a website earlier that was like praising her performance in this, and I was like, I don't know if we really got enough of a performance to praise her performance, but
I mean, I don't want to spoil the future episodes we'll be talking about, but she's no Madison. I'm just saying.
no, she's no Madison, that's for sure.
But who is?
Okay, so anyway, her first case that she's put on here is our old friend Emil Blonsky, aka the Abomination, at his parole hearing. And you guys want to talk about Abomination in this episode, or maybe do you want to just jump into these as we go through?
I mean, we can talk a little, I guess. So he's trying to portray himself as having turned over a new leaf since the events. God, when did the Hulk movie come out? Like
Forever
15
ago.
years ago? Yeah,
Yeah, like
but yeah, since
2008 maybe.
God, yeah, like that sounds about right. So yeah, in the past 14 years of real time, he's supposedly turned over a new leaf. He's found a way to find peace with himself. He realizes the experiments he underwent, they aren't his fault. What he has become is not his fault. He's trying to turn over a new leaf. That's kind of like how his character is being portrayed here, at least on the outset.
Yeah, did
So
you guys appreciate this character being brought back into the Hulk universe?
I never saw the Ed Norton Hulk movie, so I honestly,
That's the correct answer.
yeah, and I mean, my understanding is I didn't miss much. So my really my only point of reference for Abomination was in Shang-Chi, where he shows up there,
Oh,
which
okay.
I mean ties into what happens in She-Hulk with
Mhm.
with him being broken out of prison to go participate in these fights.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But so I didn't, I mean, I love Tim Roth. Like, I'm always glad to see him show up. I think he's a great actor,
Mhm.
but I didn't really, have any connection with the character necessarily.
Yeah, I know he is like one of the main Hulk villains in the comics, so that was my main connection to him. It's like, okay, so they're bringing in the rogues gallery a little bit here, but trying to do something a little different, portray him in a more human light. And I was like, okay, it's a workable plot line. They can do something with this if they focus on that and develop him as a character more. So I was okay seeing him come back.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice callback, and he was a character that probably could have been used in the MCU more. So that's good, because a lot of times they have a tendency to just kill the villains off in these movies, and then
Yeah.
although now they've been reforming some of them, so the villains are now heroes, or vice versa, somewhere in the middle. So it's kind of the same difference, I guess. We'll talk about this later on in the podcast as well, but for you gentlemen, this is the second highest rated episode of this series. So keep that in mind as we go through.
Huh.
Yeah. All right. We go on to episode 3. Don't have a title here, Joe.
The People versus Emil Blonsky.
Ah, very original. Yes. All right. So this is where Wong comes into the show, and he seems to be like the new thread, kind of like the Iron Man, or maybe even Tony Stark might be a better reference point, since he was that, I think, in a few other things, Spider-Man and whatnot. We have She-Hulk, or Jen Walters, trying to meet with Wong, which is not as easy as it seems, because he is in fact all around the world at many different points in time here. But essentially, Blonsky, back to Abomination, is showing his way that he can control himself so that he doesn't turn into Abomination anymore, and he's released on parole, but he's forbidden to ever transform again. So we have a new superhuman law division that is started up here with She-Hulk, and we have, as the first case here, a man named Dennis Bukowski, whose ex-girlfriend Runa is a shape-shifting light elf from New Asgard who defrauded him by impersonating Megan Thee Stallion, which is a pretty funny little bit, I gotta say. Did you like the light elf?
I thought it was pretty hilarious.
Yeah, this was a fun episode, and initially I'm like, okay, so this is the direction they're going with the show. It's going to be semi-episodic. It's going to, each episode or two is going to feature a distinct case with, oddball characters. And I'm like, okay, this could be a lot of fun. If they keep going and introducing different, outliers from the Marvel universe that maybe we haven't seen, I thought it would be a great way to introduce more elements, more characters into, into the fold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. It's like you just pull like some of those D roster people off some deep cuts from some old comics here into this.
Yeah, like
surely
the Leaper or something,
Surely they wouldn't wreck like a B-level villain in just a one-off here. And then the very next scene, we have the Wrecking Crew make their MCU debut. That's the Wrecker, Pile Driver, Bulldozer, and Thunderball, who are not A-villains, but definitely famous villains from the MCU if you're a comic book nerd. And she whoops their ass in like 1 second. I granted they haven't got all their powers, it seems like.
Yeah.
The MCU version.
And we should probably say what it is they're trying to do. They like jump her in an alley and they're trying to get a sample of her blood. At least that's what it looks like, because one jabs her with like this giant cartoony syringe thing and it just bends. Yeah,
hired by an anonymous client. Into this here recap. Yeah, so I was kind of like, I didn't even know that that's who it was actually when I watched it, and then I like read about it later and was like, oh shit, that was who that was. Like they just made the record this little pansy guy.
I mean, I'm
not yet
familiar,
they didn't.
I'm not familiar with those characters from the comics, but like to me it was just like totally random thugs.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like they even have powers. Like they have tools that they stole from Asgardian construction site, but so yeah, I was just like, okay, they're just some like rando henchmen from whoever's pulling the strings.
Yeah, I think in the comics they're more like they do have like basically enchanted weapons, and they're like more of a threat because their weapons are more powerful due to like magic or whatever that's on those weapons. All right, episode 4 titled.
Episode 4 is titled, Is This Not Real Magic?
With the wonderful Donnie Blaze character that shows up here, who's a magician at Mystic Castle, a former Camartage study who was kicked out for misusing his powers, finds an audience member named Madisynn King and accidentally sends her to another dimension where she makes a deal with the demon and then somehow is transported to Wong's home in Camartage.
I have a correction to make.
Yes, go ahead.
That's Madison spelled with a Y, but not where you'd expect.
That's true. 2 N's and a Y.
And I think we should talk a little more about Donnie Blaze, just who he is, what he's doing, because the whole reason he transported her, through a portal is because he's running out of material. He's running out of things to wow his audience. He keeps trying to do more like impressive and dangerous things to, up his act and actually get people involved and make money. So that's kind of the core of what's driving this particular episode.
Yeah, and Wong basically is starting a lawsuit against him to try to shut down people from using mystic arts, basically without being
licensed or something.
Yeah, essentially whatever the equivalent of licensed would be, I guess, for that.
Which I do wonder if this is going to be, a plot point later on in the MCU, like leading into another story or something. It's kind of almost throwaway with the way it's used here, if that's what they're intending, but I guess we'll see as time goes on.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
So this one ends with we got a big set piece here with demons that Blaze accidentally has unleashed, and Wong and Jen have to send them back, as well as finally getting the opposite people here, Blaze and his, I think, attorney, right, into a cease and desist order. And then we find at the end of this one, dun dun dun, here's our next plot twist. Titania has been freed and is filing a lawsuit because she trademarked the name She-Hulk.
Bum, bum, bum,
and honestly, I found this to be the most depressingly realistic thing about this show, because like if superheroes were real, this would happen. And it's like, okay, this is simultaneously ridiculous, but I could see it happening.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yes, I agree. Interesting side note. The actor who plays Blaze's attorney / the owner of the Mystic Castle is, I believe, officially the oldest actor to appear in the MCU.
Really?
He is 103 years old.
Holy crap.
He was born in 1919.
The guy who's in the courtroom?
The like older black gentleman who's like
Oh, okay.
Holy
Okay.
crap.
he's like representing Blaze, and I think like is the owner of the castle.
Shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
It looks good for 103.
Yeah, like really good.
Wow.
Probably put himself in another dimension. He just came back. Entirely possible. All right, we're headed to episode 5. This is called
I don't want to read this one. Episode 5 is called Mean Green and Straight Poured Into These Jeans.
Where
good
the
night,
focal
everybody. We'll
point,
see you next time.
Good night, folks.
an episode where the focal point is centered around shopping for clothes.
Episode
Aw,
5 is titled Deadass.
we got to get that superhero outfit from Luke Jacobson, who apparently makes superhero clothes, such as what do we see?
Apparently.
Daredevil's.
Yeah,
No.
Daredevil's
Outfit.
the big one.
Yeah.
But-
But yeah, they seriously went with like clothes shopping as a plot point here. Though there was this also the one where she tries to get into the dating scene? Like,
Yeah, well,
as
and
She-Hulk?
that's where the title comes from.
Okay.
Is that
Yeah, I think so.
at first she's resisting posting a profile as She-Hulk. She just wants to be Jen Walters.
Mhm.
And then I think she gets drunk and makes a She-Hulk profile with that tagline, mean green and straight poured into these jeans.
Yeah. The I will say this was one of my least favorite episodes, but I do like that it did touch on a theme that I feel could have been actually, well, it was worked into the show as a whole, but it could have been even more of a focal point. And that theme is, how much should you let other people define who you are? Because that, Jen never chose the name She-Hulk, the media gave it to her. She's only recognizable as that, hence the whole dating thing. There was some interesting stuff they could have done with that, where it is a really, really deep plot point that they could have mined a bit more than they did, I think. But I do want to give credit where it's due. They at least introduced that as a theme, and I have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree they probably could have done more with that, but I really like this episode. I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, this is also the one where she basically wins the case against Titania by bringing these guys that she has gone on dates with into the
That was
courtroom.
nice.
And it's just like just horribly embarrassing for her, but it's, amusing for us as the audience.
Yeah.
Well, that also, I mean, it was a good element of the story, but it brings up something that I realized pretty much in this episode that was an issue with the show as a whole. Every single male character, except for like 3, are just absolute sleazebags. Like every single one. And we'll get to that as we go on. But it goes beyond the, she just has bad luck with men.
Are you trying to not all men She-Hulk right now, Justin?
I'm saying I have the same problem with this that I have with the movie Teeth, where that it's the same thing. Every male character in that movie is just a gigantic douche, and it's the same thing in She-Hulk. There's 3. There's the other male attorney, a Pug, I think is what they call him. He's okay. There is Bruce, who they can't really make him too much of a jerk because he's already established. And then there's her dad, who I realize is really just Pete from Twin Peaks. Like at various points, I wanted him to just like come into frame and be like, "You'll never believe it. I found a fish inside the percolator."
I mean, he's actually cousin Larry from Perfect Strangers, but
character-wise, it was the same. It felt like the same guy. Anyway, those are the only 3 male characters I think I can think of.
Hashtag justice for Wong.
Well, Wong too. Okay, 4 characters, but that's
What about
it. Everyone
Daredevil?
else.
I mean, I feel like how many male characters are there in the show overall? I mean, I feel like that's a decent portion of them that are not terrible. And I mean,
good. I mean, honestly, a whole bunch of them in 2 episodes here.
Well, I mean, I think we need to acknowledge we are 3 straight white men talking about this right now, and
we can still have opinions.
Well, no, we can't have opinion. Well, you can have an opinion.
Well, thank you. Not that I needed your permission.
No, but like, I mean, like in talking about this show, like with my wife and hearing other women talk about it, it sounds like this is an experience that a lot of women relate to, where it does seem like most men are assholes and or scumbags and or are just looking for one thing. So It didn't bother me at all. I mean, it's not every single man in this show is that, but I think it's fair to say that a decent portion, if not majority of men are that. Like,
I mean,
I don't know.
it's definitely not a non-zero proportion, but it feels like it. I don't know. To me, it felt very heavily weighted on that side of things.
Dustin can always find a good guy when he needs one. That's what he's getting at here.
But I mean, like every single guy she goes on a date with, is ends up being a jerk at some point in it. We'll talk about the other characters as they show up, because I don't want to spoil a few things that happen later on in the series. So
sounds good. Okay. All right, so I think that's the crux of 5. Let's head on to 6. 5, by the way, is the second lowest rated episode, BTW as well.
Go figure.
Let's go to number 6, the wedding episode.
Justin review bombed it. Episode 6 is called Just Jen.
Just Jen. So she's invited to be a bridesmaid at her old friend Lulu's wedding, and basically finds out that she's kind of treated like shit when she gets there. Yeah. Titania is also there and is dating one of the groomsmen as well. And this is where Justin will be happy to hear that Jen finally found somebody she liked, named Josh, friend of the groom.
Oh yeah, which is
a nice guy.
He's a great guy. We got a fight here between Jen and Titania. And then we also have Book and Nikki working on a divorce case for someone named Mr. Immortal in the background, which this was, again, a pretty funny little bit.
Yeah. But again, also a sleaze bag. So
also a sleaze bag, yeah. With his 8 previous spouses. So this guy's power, if you haven't seen the show, basically is that he can't die. So at one point in the scene, he actually just throws himself through the window off like the 20th floor, lands on a car, gets up, dusts himself off, and walks away. Really wonders, the Avengers should have hired this guy a long time ago.
Yeah, just named him Punching Bag or something.
Or the bad guys, I mean, for all that matter, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I really like that storyline. I mean, I like that they gave Nikki something to do too. Like they actually gave her own little storyline there. Like she ends up being the one to kind of take control of that situation and get everyone to kind of come to an agreement. Mm-hmm. And I like that, the resolution for at least some of the people was they just wanted an apology. Like I don't know. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, they tried to basically give them like equal stuff at the beginning, and that's not what the ladies.
But I was married to him for like 20 years, and you were only married to him for 8. That sort of thing.
So we also get introduced here in episode 6, a suspicious website called Intelligentsia, and a person known as Hulk King.
That's Cody Fleming.
Which, P.S. I'm just going to spoil this now for the viewers. Hulk Hogan was not in this entire season, and that is some bullshit. But anyway, Justin, you were saying.
Oh yeah. So for those of you who haven't seen the show, picture Intelligentsia as the MCU's version of 4chan, and you wouldn't be very far off the mark.
It's basically Incel City, USA.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Did you say Twitter?
Oh,
is that too timely?
These days.
Yeah.
Well, you know something mean, Gene. All right. Well, anyway, we have scientists trying to get us stealing a blood sample from Jen. And we're going to get more to that here in just a second. Let's go to episode 7. Joe.
The Retreat.
Ooh. Oh, P.S. Episode 6 was the lowest rated episode of the season. P.S.
Huh.
So there's that. I didn't mind the wedding episode, actually. I thought it was a fun little bit.
It was fun.
Different setting we've never had before. It was just 7 was quite delightful, though, I have to say.
I love 7.
It was my favorite.
That might have been my favorite too.
So Jen's going on some dates with Josh Miller here, and it's getting a little hot and heavy, and he seemingly ghosts her after they sleep together, and she waits for a text for him for basically this entire episode until finally she...
I'm sorry, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
She-Hulk fucks. Confirmed.
That's fair. Blonsky's inhibit her from turning him into, or basically monitoring him or stopping him from being Abomination seems to be broken, and so she has to go out to the Summer Twilight Spiritual Retreat. It's a tongue full. Summer Twilight Spiritual Retreat to check on him. She ends up staying behind, and here she meets some wonderfully bizarre characters.
Yes.
Including Man Bull, El Aguila, Porcupine, Saracen, and the Wreckers back again, and they found a way to neuter him even more. God damn it.
But I liked how, like you two said, I liked this episode a lot because it brought a lot more just oddball D-list characters into the fold, and it made them interesting and feel like real people. And the idea of like a supervillain support group to try and overcome their anger and all that, it was neat, it was clever, it was fun. Let's see.
It's also a group of men who seem like they're not assholes. I'm just saying.
So far, but because of something that happens later, that gets called into question. But we'll get to that in episode 9. So, but yeah, like at the moment they seem like the rational ones. They're they try to talk Jen through the whole like, hey, you're acting like a 20-year-old waiting for a text from this guy who obviously doesn't actually care about you as much as you think he does. So you need to move on and let go. And it's like there's actual character development going on here, and it's evidence that Emil himself seems like he's trying to move on to something else and something better. And we'll get back to that. So
my kids and I both liked Saracen the most of the people here at the retreat. It was just like the moody vampiric type dude at the farm. He was pretty good. Although Porcupine was pretty amazing as well.
I like Porcupine a lot.
Yeah, I don't think he had an actual power, did he? Wasn't he just a dude in a porcupine suit?
I think so.
Who never bathed.
Yeah, who never bathed. His power was smelling bad.
I mean, I like the whole group. Like,
they were pretty fun.
Yeah,
I gotta say. All right, then this one ends with the shocking reveal that Miller actually cloned her phone and stole a sample of her blood on behalf of Hulk King.
I have to say, I kind of hated that reveal at the end.
Mm-hmm. Because like, oh yeah, this guy who seemed nice actually is another sleazebag. Go figure.
I mean, that's not why I hated it, but no, I just like, because up to that point, the episode felt like removed from trying to have some sort of like villain or like, telling that sort of traditional superhero story. It really was an episode about Jen coming to terms with the fact that this guy ghosted her and like, learning to kind of let that go and let things go. And, I think it was also nice seeing the other side of Blonsky and seeing that maybe he had really changed. Mm-hmm. I feel like it would have been stronger if it had just not had that kind of PS on the end of it. Like,
agreed.
Oh, by the way, Josh did this terrible thing 3 days ago. Like they could have just saved that for the next episode and it would have worked a lot better, I think.
Because it's been a while since I watched this. How did he retrieve a blood sample from her?
I think it was implied it was while she was asleep.
Shouldn't she have like basically impenetrable skin?
I think it's only when she's She-Hulk. Like,
yeah.
I think when,
she was Jen at the time.
Yeah, she was Jen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that was like
that makes
the
sense.
big thing with
Thank you.
Josh is that, which this is something we were kind of talking about before we started recording.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Is that Josh actually liked her for her, whereas like other people only seemed like they wanted She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
Which she likes her for her.
Like I had said, like that's an issue I had with the show because Tatiana Maslany is adorable. Like,
yeah,
she's a totally attractive lady. Like the show kind of presents it as, oh, Jennifer Walters is this like mousy little nothing that nobody could ever want to be involved with, and I didn't really buy that. But
yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, it felt like they were over exaggerating just how quote unquote unappealing she was, but she seemed like a fine person. Good job, had a decent personality.
I mean, I do think like I do think it does work though in the context of her overall character arc, because it coincides with the fact that she needs to accept who she is and like embrace and love herself. So it kind of works in that regard, but I don't know. I did feel like it went a little bit too far with the like, what an uggo. Like,
right. Yeah. It's like what, going back to the Rings of Power episode, how, Brett found that quote saying, the woman who plays Galadriel was, that's just hideous or whatever. It's
ridiculous.
Like,
like that's just objectively wrong.
Right.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, so Josh, the fact that Josh did like her, ostensibly liked her for her, was like a big positive in his favor, and then we learned that it was really just so he could secretly steal her blood.
Yep. But I do have to give them points for not going with the vampire stereotype. The vampire never drunk anyone's blood during this entire
That's
episode.
true.
Okay. All right, now we're gonna ramp it up a lot.
We sure are.
Episode 8.
Would you say we're gonna rib it and rip it?
I think we might be. Here. Let's go to episode 8, titled
Rib it and rip it.
Oh.
I wasn't just saying that for fun.
Well, I knew okay.
It is your catchphrase.
Yeah, it is the catchphrase. So anyway,
I know.
Jen has a new case here, and she is representing someone named Eugene Patilio, or Leap-Frog, who is suing the guy Jacobson who had made Jen's clothes earlier because he thought he had a faulty super suit. And this is where we finally get his representation in court as Matt Murdock, finally making his appearance on the show that they teased us with a long time ago. So this was great. And we found out the guy basically used jet fuel in his boots and he wasn't supposed to. So that's kind of where that ends. And then we get into kind of a nice little double switcheroo plot here where Leap-Frog has Jen help against this new unknown assailant who turns out to be Daredevil. And while they are fighting, Daredevil basically reveals to Jen that it was actually Leap-Frog who kidnapped Jacobson. And then the two work together, and then the two get to work together.
Can I take a minute to talk about the abhorrent amounts of property damage that happened during She-Hulk and Daredevil's fight?
Yeah,
Yes.
please.
This is supposed to be a show ostensibly that is about like legal proceedings and working the law into things. This is never mentioned again. Jen destroys like a half a parking structure.
I kept waiting for that to be a thing. Like I at least expected Matt Murdock to like say something about it, but it's just like it's not an issue at all. And
they just peace out and go on about their night. So that's all I had to say about that. It's like, seriously?
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
fair.
I was just like waiting for it to come up, and they never even acknowledged it.
Yeah,
that's pretty funny. So, the scene of like Murdoch doing kind of the old Netflix TV show Daredevil takedown of bad guys was pretty cool, and then Jen's just like fucking shit up with her strength, which is an angle he never had to deal with. I guess Luke Cage had kind of a little bit of something like that in the Netflix show, but definitely a different combination.
What did you guys think of the yellow and red Daredevil suit?
It's different, but not horrible.
It wasn't what I thought was going to be in the show when they were talking about a yellow suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't hate it. It's definitely different.
Yeah.
It's not the colors I would have chosen. I'll say that. But I mean, yeah, I've seen worse costumes.
Yeah.
Leap-Frog.
I mean, it's maybe we could talk about this later, but it's interesting because Daredevil is once again played by Charlie Cox, who played him in the Netflix Daredevil series, which is now on Disney Plus.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, we're not really sure if it is the same version of Matt Murdock / Daredevil that is shown in that series. So that's kind of up in the air. Like, for all we know, that could be like no longer considered canon, and this is like the same actor playing the same character but different.
From a different multiverse.
Like,
but really he's Matt Boner.
But I mean, they have announced that they are making a new Daredevil like mini series starring him. So
18 episodes. I'm excited.
Yeah, curious to see like if that ties into the previous series at all. But
that mini series is longer than most of the full-length series.
I should say a limited event series is what they call them these days.
Okay. All right. Well, this one, it has the Southern California Law Awards gala, where she gets Female Lawyer of the Year award, but I think didn't like 10 ladies win that?
Like they like all
yet another commentary.
of the year,
yeah.
And then we have Intelligentsia broadcasting at this event. Jen loses control, turns into She-Hulk, basically destroys the place, and is going to basically kind of beat it out of one of the intelligentsia people until the Department of Damage Control shows up. That's right.
Womp womp.
They're back again, ladies and gentlemen. For their every 3 years they show up time with no connection whatsoever.
I mean, they were also a big factor in Miss Marvel.
That's true. They were. So kind of playing the role of the street level organization, I guess.
Yeah.
This one is far and away rated as the highest episode. P.S.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
This one has
It's
a
probably
90,
because of
96
Daredevil.
aggregate.
All the
Wow.
incels are probably giving it a pass because Man Hero.
Probably. I liked episode 7 more than this one, but this one wasn't bad though. It had some good action. It had, you actually got to see a bit of teamwork strategy and whatnot forming between She-Hulk and Daredevil. It was cool.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I really like the chemistry between She-Hulk and Daredevil. I mean, in multiple ways.
It does have the sex scene you're alluding to and the walk of shame scene, which was fantastic.
Sure was.
Just
it was funny, and I get the reason you said before we started recording about why he didn't put on his boots. Put on the entire rest of his costume, but not those. But that still seems silly to me.
Got to protect his identity.
Is that Daredevil? No, Daredevil wears boots. That can't be him.
All right, then we get episode 9 is the finale here. This is where we're going to probably spend some time on this.
Whose show is this?
Whose show is this? Okay, so the recap, I guess, quickly is Jen's released, but she now has an inhibitor as well to keep her from transforming. She loses her job with the law firm. Nikki and Pug infiltrate the intelligentsia event. They learn that Phelps is one of the ex-guys she dated here for a date and has been kind of popping up, stalking her. Created intelligentsia. He is the Hulk King. Blonsky is there as the Abomination as a motivational speaker. So we got a lot of pieces going in this one at all. Okay, Jen shows up, basically, confronts him. He injects himself with her blood and transforms into a new version of a Hulk. And then for no reason whatsoever, Titania and Bruce Banner also appear in the ensuing fight. When confused, Jen Walters destroys her inhibitor, breaks the fourth wall to confront the show's writers in Marvel Studios Assembled, meets Kevin, Kevin, an artificial intelligence that is in charge of the MCU's storyline decisions, persuades it to rewrite the finale, to which it reluctantly agrees, returns to her own show, and finds Phelps and Blonsky have been arrested, celebrates with her family and Matt Murdock. Banner returns to Sakaar with his son, from Sakaar with his son Scar. She regains her job. She's cleared of all charges, and she continues to work as a lawyer and a superhero. And then we have, on top of all that, a mid-credit scene where Wong breaks Blonsky out of prison and takes him to Kamartaj yet again. So, or maybe for the first time, actually.
Yeah.
That's a lot to unpack in this last one. Wow.
Especially because these episodes are like 25 minutes long. Somehow. Yeah.
Yes. Well, anybody here, where do you want to start with this last one? We got a lot going on.
I'm gonna let Justin start because I think he has a lot to say.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll start because it ties into what I said before about the depiction of men in general in this show. So up until this point, Emil Blonsky had seemed like he actually was turning over a new leaf. He actually was, trying to better himself, better others who were having trouble. And then he's going and taking, speaking gigs with, intelligentsia, who are objectively evil in this show, implying that he's okay with what they're doing because he agreed to show up with their event, implying that he hasn't changed at all. You could extend you'll have a chance. Give me a second. So that felt like just a huge, backpedaling on what would have been good character growth on his character's part. It also leads to the question of all the people he was, that at his retreat, were they actually getting better, or was he doing something to groom them into becoming, more like him, just outwardly better, outwardly good people, but secretly just still terrible on the inside. So his whole thing showing up to do this presentation for intelligentsia felt like it just completely undercut everything he was working towards for himself and for everyone else who he had at his retreat, which completely undercuts a lot of character development, in my opinion. That was one of many many problems I had with this episode, but I feel like I've taken a turn. Someone else can go. We can kind of go back and forth on this.
No, I mean, I disagree about the Blonsky thing, at least to an extent. I do think it could have been a little bit clearer in the episode, but
Mhm.
my take was not that him turning over a new leaf was complete bullshit.
Mhm.
I think the only sort of bad thing the only crime he commits here is turning into Abomination, which he's not supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
But I got the sense that he didn't really know or care what Intelligentsia's thing was. Like when he comes out and starts giving his speech, it's all just kind of generic, like self-empowerment, self-actualization, whatever bullshit. Like it has nothing to do with Intelligentsia's actual mission. And then once shit hits the fan and Todd or whatever his face is injects himself and becomes the Hulk creature, like Blonsky is on She-Hulk's side. Like Todd tries to attack Jen and Blonsky's like, hey, leave Jen alone. Like when the fight starts to break out, he's firmly on her side. Like he's on the good side. So I don't think he has fully turned into like a bad person. I think maybe his biggest crime is capitalism, because similarly to how like people want Jen to be She-Hulk, maybe people want to pay more for him to do a motivational speech if he is in the Abomination form. But I mean, I guess I just didn't take it as like he was actually a villain and lying the whole time. I think it's just like I feel like he is that person, like he is the motivational, like positive person, but he was using the Abomination form like just for this gig, which he shouldn't have been doing. But like I said at the beginning, I do feel like if that's the case, it should have been made a little bit clearer.
Yeah, I'll chime in quick and say I took this as more Joe's point as well. I thought he just seemed to be excited to give a motivational speech to a group of people.
Yeah.
And therefore, like, again, probably shouldn't have done it as Abomination, but I guess what you said about maybe they wanted him as that form, or maybe, well, we know his inhibitor had broke beforehand. So it's probably something he's been doing, is doing these speeches as Abomination before. But I just took it as he liked to talk to people and probably didn't really know what they were up to, is my guess. But it was at his retreat, though. Is that not?
Yes.
It was at his retreat, yeah. But I mean,
yeah. And I will say, it pains me to say this, but I would have to watch this episode again to really get a feel for the fight as it's breaking out, because I was furiously scribbling down notes as all this was happening. I admit I may have missed like exactly like, whose side Abomination was, trying to be on once the fist started flying. So I may have misinterpreted that. If so, kudos to the writers for not completely backpedaling on character growth, but I would have to watch it again to get a full account of it. So,
and I do agree that it is a little bit muddled. So
this whole scene is muddled. This is it's like the Endgame portal scene, but without any build up to it at all. It's just like,
I mean, that's kind of the point, though. Like that's the other thing, is that's kind of the whole point, is like all of a sudden it feels like shit is just going bonkers, and like it does in every other Marvel property.
Yeah,
well,
that's fair.
Building off of that, though, with the way things turned out, with her literally punching out of the show, going into a different show, finding her way through like a back door into the Disney Plus platform. This is something that has always bugged me when it shows up in any sort of story. Recognizing that you're doing bad writing and acknowledging it does not excuse the fact that what you're writing is still bad. And they seem to think that they're like, oh, well, this whole thing that we wrote and decided to film and decided to put on screen, it's it's terrible. It makes no sense. It's just a mess. They still put it out there anyway. They could have written anything else.
Though.
Yes, but it's still terrible.
But that's the point.
Acknowledging that your writing is bad doesn't make your writing not bad. Full stop.
I disagree with you.
I think so. We can get some clarification here, because this is really fun to watch you two on this one. But Joe, are you saying the first 8 episodes were poorly written?
You mean Justin?
No, Joe. I'm asking you. You said that's the whole point, is that they're
No,
going back
I
to
mean,
save the messy
well,
writing. But are you
Justin,
referencing
are you
the first?
are you saying that the first 8 episodes are all terribly written? Is that what
Not
you're
all of
getting
them.
at, Justin?
No, there were some good ones. There were some ones that were genuinely entertaining. This last one, though, is a dumpster fire.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying
Okay.
this last episode, that leading up to the point where she like completely shatters the fourth wall and like jumps out of the Disney Plus app.
Okay, so you're both saying it's this last episode that
Yeah,
is. I'm just trying to clarify for
primarily.
the audience here and
I'm
myself what
saying
side of the
that
argument who's on here.
It
so.
also bugs me that what they did with her actually finding her way into the real world with the writing room, they stole that directly from a little independent movie called The Gamers from like 2002, where that's about like a D&D game where the action follows.
I mean, my
all the characters and
understanding
stuff.
is that they took it directly from a She-Hulk comic incident.
I'm just saying where I've
like
seen it
this.
before.
Apparently,
So-
this happens in the comics where she actually jumps out of a panel and goes and like confronts the comic writers. So,
Really?
yeah.
Huh. Either way, it felt like something I had seen before and done better. So
I loved it. I thought it was great.
It's chaotic, and I still haven't made up my mind on this last episode. But what? So Titania and Banner are just there to add shit to the scene, I'm sure. But what did you guys think of the Kevin?
I thought it was
reveal?
funny. I thought it was hilarious.
did they actually throw Kevin Feige under the bus for this?
Sort
Yes.
of.
Kind of, yeah.
So I mean I'm still trying to wrap my mind around that because it's implied he's okay with it because he let it go in the show, but it still feels weird to me. Like you're taking part in this universe that you would think you'd have some connection to, some investment in, to want to add something worthwhile to it. And yet you're saying everything that came before your brilliant twist here at the end is crap and formulaic and terrible. Those are some gigantic balls right there. And I know the person who wrote this is a woman, but figuratively speaking, that is a gigantic ego right there, saying that, everything that has been done in the Marvel universe up until this point is the same formulaic crap over and over and over again. And I have a better
feel like
idea.
You're taking it maybe to too much of an extreme.
That's what it feels like, though.
I don't think she's saying like everything that happened before the MCU is crap, but I think she does have a point that a lot of it does feel pretty samey after 30 movies or however many there are. Like,
I'm not going to argue against that, but
I don't even know that it's saying that, though. I think it's just saying that there's this robot that's making the decisions for the movies. I didn't even take out of it that they were necessarily commenting that they were all samey, just that somebody's making the decisions
they
behind
absolutely
the scenes.
were, because that's what the setup was. That's what the
Right.
scene before she jumps out was, where you have
The
Todd
chaos
injects
and the-
himself, like Todd becomes a Hulk, because in the MCU movies, a lot of them anyway, the villain has like similar powers to the hero by the end of it.
Yeah, and Jen's like, we're really doing this again? Is this
Yeah,
working for anyone?
like-
Yeah, so I mean, that's
Okay.
exactly the point that they were trying to get across.
And then with like Bruce and Titania both jumping out of nowhere, that was just like, further kind of poking fun at it. Like,
well,
because people want to see Hulk again. So here
That's
he
fair.
is.
well,
Like,
in the rewrite that Jen made Kevin do, though, I mean, having Daredevil just fall out of the sky didn't make any more sense than that. Just like to point that out, except she wanted to bone him again. That's really all it boils down to.
I mean, that's all that matters, though.
Yeah, I don't know how much did you all read about the Kevin thing?
No, I just tried to interpret
Basically,
it as
they had some things they wanted to do with this scene, and Feige vetoed some of them.
Oh.
So they wanted to put like his actual baseball hat on the robot that he always wears, like his actual one, and he said no.
I
like
did hear that.
he stopped him on that one. So they like made part of the robot's head like different
Yeah.
shapes and colors to look like the baseball hat, I guess.
Huh.
So that's kind of fun. So I guess there were a few little tiny things I read that he said no to, but he gave him a lot of freedom with this, looks like.
So I mean, at least he was a good sport about it.
Yeah, seems like
that's kind of cool. Yeah. I don't,
Seems like
even
he
if I
was.
don't personally like the direction they took, I mean, at least he was able to laugh at himself, and that counts for a lot.
Well, I don't know if you guys have more comments on that part or not, but what the hell are we supposed to make of this Bruce Banner returns back from Sakaar and with his son, who clearly is not a baby?
That I have nothing.
I've
like,
lost track of
I-
time at this point, so I don't know what's even going on here.
like,
But
yeah, I don't.
Time dilation, the
his
14
son
real
seemed
world
older
years
than the
since-
MCU, so I'm like,
Yeah, the 14 real world years since the last Hulk movie actually took place in Sakaar. I don't know. I got nothing.
That's
This
something
is
like-
part of why this is bad writing.
I mean, I don't know if that's something that happens in the comics. I have no idea. Like, I'm not familiar with Scar at all.
he has
so
a
I
son.
don't
His name is
really-
Scar in the comics, but I just don't get how he. Maybe it's not his literal son. I don't know. I don't know. Sure looked like him though,
Yeah.
but I don't get how that can work unless something weird's going on. That one I'm sure will get explained at some point. But
Yeah, I mean, that was clearly put in there to have like a cliffhanger for Hulk's next appearance and whatever
Yeah.
that might be.
Mhm.
yeah, and Matt Murdock's back celebrating with her family over picnic lunch or dinner or some crap.
Mhm.
And then we get Wong breaking Blonsky out
Oh,
of prison
okay.
again.
I do want to just read briefly. I pulled up Scar's fictional character biography.
Okay.
He's the son of Hulk, blah, blah, blah. Following the Hulk's departure from Sakaar, Scar emerged from a cocoon with the appearance and age equivalents of a human preteen. He
Huh.
matured rapidly, achieving teenage appearance in just 1 year. So
Okay.
apparently he did just grow real fast.
Okay. So at the end of the day, here's probably the biggest question I can raise about all this. So introducing She-Hulk into the MCU, we can probably assume she's intended to show up in things later on, right? Movies, other shows, that sort of thing.
You would
Probably.
think.
Okay. How?
That is a
She-
good question.
Because if she can just punch her way through like meta reality and rewrite the script, or like convince people to rewrite the script, how does that work in anything but this little bubble where she's currently contained?
Well, I wrote down at the same question as Ms. Marvel when she writes all over the screen in the episodes. Like, we can't keep the same feeling or tonal, style that they're using there. But this is a
Well,
step
in
further.
Ms.
You're right.
Yeah.
I mean, in Miss Marvel, she doesn't really write over the screen. It's just like it's
Stuff
like in
in
the
the background.
background. It's like it's a stylistic choice.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but are we not to
Like-
take that that's like her projection of her world onto the real world as well, which is
It's just kind of in her
Essentially.
Yeah,
imagination,
it's
I
just
think.
like it's
Yeah.
just in her. It's like her perception of things.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
I mean, I don't know how She-Hulk's going to work going forward. Like
Yeah.
because I don't think you can do that sort of thing in
Right.
another property. Like I think that's a good point.
Yeah, like I mean, you could theoretically make, say, Deadpool work, just have him make a quip about something that the other characters wouldn't know outside of the world.
Yeah.
That's one thing. But like leaving the world and like popping up in a different that's a completely different level of
Yeah, I
Stuff.
don't know. I have a feeling we're probably not going to see that again. Like
Okay.
we might get her like turn to the camera and make a quip here and there, which I get.
Yeah.
I mean, that would probably work fine.
yeah.
But yeah, I doubt we'll see, unless it's in She-Hulk season 2. Like, I don't think we're gonna get to the level of fourth wall breaking where she's actually like jumping out of the screen into something else.
Do you guys think Daredevil got her pregnant and that's how they get introduced Deadpool?
I mean, Hulks do
No.
occasionally smash Matt Murdock, so
Devil dared, am I right? Hey,
Oh,
man, he is horny.
That's true.
but I'm Tish.
This last episode was the third worst rated episode of the run.
Third worst? Wow.
Third worst. Yeah.
I
Wow.
liked it.
Only ahead of 5 and 6, which I liked 6 quite a bit. So I don't know what they're smoking here. But anyway,
Wow.
this is based on Rotten Tomatoes, though. So there's that.
Gotcha.
I mean, Cody, you
Well-
said earlier that there's been like a lot of discussion of the show online, and
Yeah.
it's kind of hilarious to a certain extent because exactly what the show was largely commenting on is what happened to the show. Like the very like incels and frustrated, like terrible males that the show is poking fun at are the ones that like took to the internet to express their nerd outrage.
It's true. And
Yeah, most of
to
them.
that end, here's a mini game that I'm going to pop up on you.
Oh boy.
This
Oh,
is
boy.
called Is It a Troll Commenting on the She-Hulk TV show or is it an actual quote by Donald Trump Jr.? Are you ready?
I am so ready.
Oh,
Here's
no.
your first one. The first one says, "Ha ha, this is gold. Western women are the most privileged humans with lives of comfort and abundance in the history of the world."
That has to be Donald Trump Jr.
I'm thinking it's Trump. Yeah.
That is a troll for She-Hulk.
Really?
Oh.
Yes.
I mean, same thing.
Yeah. What?
I haven't seen his comments.
Do
on
we
She-Hulk,
know?
so
Yeah.
there's-
Do we
I
know
don't
that
know.
that
Yeah, that's a good
wasn't
question.
Donald
All right,
Trump
all right.
Jr.?
Donald
Here's
Trump
number
Jr.
2.
is
Are you
Hulk
ready?
King.
Here's number 2. This is levels of cringe that even I couldn't have imagined. Holy shit. Who is this for?
That's got to be a
That's an
comment
internet
about
comment.
She-Hulk.
Yeah.
That is a troll for She-Hulk.
Okay.
All right. Number 3. It's our last one. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's just fuck around and find out what happens.
I gotta say Trump.
Yeah, same.
Ooh, that was actually, yes, that was Donald Trump Jr. You are correct. So nice job. 2 out of 3. Not bad. Not bad.
Okay.
Some
fun.
criticisms here leveled for the show I was going to ask you guys about. Well, how did you feel about the final product on the CGI? Because that was a major concern of people with that early trailer. And my personal take, there were some uneven moments in the show.
Yeah.
I've seen worse.
Yeah, I was really concerned going into it because the trailer looked awful, but I think it
Well-
didn't look amazing, but I feel like it looked good enough that it didn't like take me out of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I know how overworked the effects department is at Marvel.
Yeah.
So considering just the pressure they're constantly under, I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah. One thing which I think I might have actually brought this up when we talked about the first episode. One thing I had heard which makes sense is that She-Hulk, like the She-Hulk CGI model, is a completely new creation for this show. Whereas like Hulk has been around for 20 years, 15 years, whatever at this point.
Yeah.
Like they've had all this time, like when they bring him into this, they're using the same model that they have built for like the Avengers and all the things. So like that's already established.
Okay.
So theoretically, She-Hulk will probably look better over time as they have more time to work on that character model and develop it.
Not to Matt Murdock, she won't.
Oh,
Oh man.
Because he's blind. Did you get that? Because she got that.
Well, good night,
folks. You got that. All right. Yeah, I agree. I thought it was uneven at times, like I said, but it really wasn't bad. There were a couple moments where it, I wouldn't say took me out of what was happening on screen, but definitely made me notice what was happening on screen a little bit here and there.
Okay, yeah, that character isn't actually standing there, but I mean, it wasn't like PS2 era graphics or anything.
Yeah.
So
No.
it could have been a lot worse.
Criticism that this show has overt female sexuality.
Was that your
Okay.
criticism, Cody?
No, that was Donald Trump Jr. No, I'm joking.
What is, I mean, how
I guess just
is there an actual criticism there? Like, because
Or is
it
it
sounds
simply
like,
stating a fact?
like women aren't allowed to have sexual feelings. Is that what they're getting? I mean,
I guess from what the comments
Wow.
I was reading online earlier when I was trying to put together more for the Donald Trump Jr. game, there was a lot of people who were just like, I guess really pissed off because it's showing the female perspective. And we kind of talked about this in the premiere episode as well, a little bit, I think, but I don't know how we even begin to comment on that, I suppose, but
I mean, I don't think you could take that comment as anything other than sexism. Like,
Yeah.
especially when you're specifically saying the female sexual perspective, like it's just bullshit.
Right. Yeah. It's very much pearl clutching. Won't someone think of the children kind of thing when this clearly isn't a show aimed at kids,
Yeah,
There-
Cody.
it's true.
And actually, I look at the show in a similar way to, you remember that reboot they did of the Muppets a few years back, where they were like, it was like
I
a
remember
sitcom.
they did it.
Yeah,
The-
and they
the
were
series
actually,
or
yeah,
the movie. Yeah,
the
I
series.
remember that happening. I didn't really
Yeah.
watch it though.
well, they're like, it's trying to do like a more adult sitcom-y take on it, where they're actually running the theater and they go out for drinks afterwards. Kermit gets laid, that sort of thing.
What?
Wait, what now?
Yes, yeah. There's a whole thing where there's like a love triangle between him and Miss. Anyway,
Oh my God. I kind of want to watch that now.
it wasn't bad. It wasn't bad, and that's the thing,
BRB.
it was a what was that?
Said BRB. I'm gonna go watch the Muppet thing here. 1 second.
But it was a different take on something that was perceived in a very specific light before. Like a lot of people consider comic books to be, geared towards like a younger audience for the most part, even though a lot of people who read comic books are older these days and watch the movies and such. But it's a different take, but it's not a bad take. Like
Well, Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
I was going to say that there is room in this world, this whole overarching MCU for, stories where characters have, personal lives, and in people's personal lives, they date, they go out for drinks, they have jobs. There's a place for that, and I don't think, having a focus on that, including gasp female sexuality,
They make
I don't
it a
think that's a bad
sex.
thing. Yeah, I don't think
I
that's
agree.
a bad thing.
I mean, well, and this is something that I said when we talked about the premiere episode too, which is the MCU has never been for children. Like the whole reason the MCU has worked from the first Iron Man movie onward is that it takes these characters seriously, and like all of the films feel like real movies for adults. Like it was never geared towards children. Like honestly, I think it's weird that it took until now for them to like start to openly acknowledge sex in the MCU.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, there's technically a sex scene in Eternals, but it's the least sexy thing that's ever been put on film. But like I think it's awesome that like people have needs, and like 99.9% of the characters in the MCU are extremely attractive. So it's only natural that they might start to have some feelings towards each other.
Yeah.
I'm here for horny MCU, which, side note, similarly to what She-Hulk did for the MCU, Andor, I believe, is the first property to acknowledge the existence of sex in the galaxy far, far away.
That's why I was doing this when you were talking earlier. But
Yeah.
you totally no-sold me. So
didn't they allude to it in Solo? I haven't seen it, but I thought
no, that was this.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not actually a sex scene, but like there is kind of a before and after, like similar to She-Hulk, where like it's clear that people are having sex. And I mean, so I like the idea that like on both the MCU and Star Wars sides, like they're telling some more mature stories.
Yeah, I can respect that too. And criticizing that simply because those elements exist is juvenile. Ironically.
I mean,
so
I do.
What else you got, Cody?
I still think it's a little bit for kids, though. Just put that out there. There's no way Disney's not merchandising the shit out of all this stuff to kids. There's no way. Come on.
I mean,
if you're saying that, then you're kidding yourself.
I mean, but do we want to talk about the history of action figures and like
that could be an interesting episode in and of itself.
It could be, but I'm just saying, like they've made merchandise and action figures for like all. I own an Alien action figure. Are you going to tell me that the first Alien movie is for children?
Yeah, it's all about like motherhood and
I'm just saying, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I also feel like there's
absolutely is
a counterpoint to be made there.
Yeah.
All right. This is just so I'm gonna give you we already talked about the ending a little bit. So I have just some other criticisms here people put on here. I'm just gonna throw all 4 of these out at once, and you guys can do with it what you
will.
Do it.
Okay.
4 complaints. These are quotes. Okay. The show felt empty. There's no identity to this show. The comedy is lazy. The drama is meaningless. I'll read those again while you're processing. The show felt empty. There's no identity to this show. The comedy is lazy. The drama is meaningless. Anybody want to defend or support one of those positions?
I'll tackle the identity question because that's actually been on my mind, where I do feel that the show didn't have a solid sense of exactly what it wanted to be. Like the first few episodes seemed like they were going for sort of a trial of the week sort of feel, or every couple of episodes maybe.
Yep.
Where they would introduce a case. The case would be outlandish, but it would be interesting. They would focus on Jen's trial for that. There might be a fight thrown in here or there, and I thought that was the formula it was going to go with. And then it abandoned that partway through to focus more on like her her day-to-day life, her interpersonal struggles and challenges, that sort of thing. And then it's, it tried to wrap itself into a more traditional like superhero narrative arc where there is a nefarious group at work, and it felt like it never gelled in any of the things it tried to do. And that's a shame, because if it had stuck with one, like the courtroom trial setup, or the character study, or even like a traditional superhero thing, it could have worked. But it did feel very disjointed, because it would linger briefly for like an hour and a half's worth of time on one setting, and then it would just sort of meld into the next, and then it would shift and decide it didn't want to do that and do something else. And if it had focused more, I think it would have been stronger for it.
Yeah, I can't disagree with Justin on that. I mean, I think I liked the series as a whole a lot more than he did. At least I'm assuming so. But I do agree that it was a little uneven tonally. I mean, I honestly wish it had just been like She-Hulk : attorney at law. Like the parts of the show that I was most invested in was the stuff involving like Jen Walters, A, trying to establish her career, and B, trying to get her personal life under control and figure out who she is. Like, I really could have probably done without any of the like evil scheming villain stuff, like I said at the end of that one episode where they throw in the thing about Josh stealing her blood. Like, I didn't need that.
Right.
I mean, ultimately I did, I did enjoy what they did with the finale, because I feel like because of how Marvel operates, it's kind of inevitable that they would have to have some sort of like overarching scheming villain behind the scenes there. And so I like how the finale kind of addressed that, but it did feel like there were kind of a few different disparate parts that were just kind of jumbled together over the course of the series.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think that the trial of Louis thing would have been pretty cool, actually. I wonder if they will bring this back for a season 2, if they would do that, because I don't feel like they can really do it with Daredevil, even though he's a lawyer, because he's just like a different type of lawyer with different set of powers, and just doesn't seem to match as well.
Yeah.
He had normal clients in the Netflix one. Maybe we should look at that. This is a more jovial Matt Murdock than we got on the Netflix one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah. What did you guys think about the humor criticism? I actually liked the humor throughout the show. I wouldn't say that it was lazy. Like I thought that they had some pretty good jokes in there.
I laughed out loud a lot during this run, but I don't know if that's because I was like trying to make it in my head seem funnier than it actually was because of the criticisms or not. But I enjoyed quite a bit of the punches when they landed.
Yeah, I found the humor to be hit or miss. I did genuinely laugh a few times, and there were some jokes that really just sort of fizzled and died. But I mean, humor's a hard thing to get right, especially in in a live action setting where you have people delivering lines. You have to make sure they're doing it the right way. If there's like a visual element, you have to make sure that's incorporated right. It's not easy to do. That said, I don't think it was a failure on the comedic side, but it was definitely a mixed bag.
Yeah, that's fair.
Wasn't as funny as, say, Punisher. That was
I do feel like while they were making the show, they probably didn't realize what they had on their hands with Madisynn, because I kept waiting for her to show back up.
Her interactions with Wong were great.
Was her little clip with Wong, like eating the popcorn, was that the same episode she was introduced in, or was that the next episode?
That was the same episode.
Oh,
that was the same one.
Apparently that scene was improvised.
Nice. That might be why it worked so well.
Yeah, like I guarantee her and Wong are going to be back together at some point at the MCU, but I feel like making the show, they probably just thought it would be like a throwaway thing, but I think there was a pretty strong reaction to her.
Yeah,
people loved her. Oh my god. She's funny. She's gonna be the new Tony Stark.
Well, I mean, she drinks enough.
Yeah, there you go.
That's true. That is true.
She's got a breastplate like he did. Never mind. Go on.
What were the other two criticisms?
The show felt empty and the drama is meaningless.
Okay. I wouldn't argue the show felt empty. If anything, it felt like they were trying to cram too much into it. Like there was a lot going on. There were a lot
Maybe
of
they
characters.
mean, maybe that's referencing like the soul of the show felt empty because maybe
Possibly, but that sort of ties into the whole identity question too. Like,
Yeah.
if it's not capitalizing on that, it's of course going to feel kind of shallow.
I don't know. I honestly, I feel like Tatiana Maslany like really kind of carried the show for me. Like, I think she was great, and I was, like I said, I was invested in all of the Jen Walters stuff. So to me, like the show did not feel empty because I was like trying to go along with her on her journey of,
yeah.
self-empowerment and figuring out who she is.
Yeah, I'd agree. So I think to me the drama didn't feel meaningless because it
Yeah.
was just her story, her journey. And
Yeah.
I didn't know the actress either because I never watched was it Orphan Black that she did the
Yeah, which
Oh.
I haven't seen either. I've heard good things about it.
that's a
but-
show where was she the one that played like 6 roles?
Yeah,
Was that her?
she's
Okay.
like, yeah, she plays
Okay.
like multiple different characters on that.
Okay.
Huh. But-
Good. Yeah, good. Well, anybody any last comments we didn't get to here? Otherwise, we're gonna do a rating
thing I can think-
here.
Yeah, the
And
only
then
thing that I
also, do we
missed-
want to rate against the other TV shows?
No, because I don't remember how I ranked
Same.
them last time.
Yeah,
Well, I'm gonna give you mine because I just did that while you two are talking. So there's that.
Oh
Oh.
boy.
have fun because I still haven't seen a few of these.
But we'll do
so-
the numbers first. So maybe
Okay.
that's where we want to go. So let's do it out of 10 as we traditionally do here. 10 being Rogue One and 1 being episode 8. That doesn't mean the scales flip, Joe. Before
So
you're
one
about to
so
say it.
one is really good then?
Yeah,
It's
I already,
golf.
I already said no before you even made the joke.
No.
See, I called you off on that first.
There must be some lag here.
You were like, Andor. No.
Andor, go fuck yourself.
Wow. That's
What?
just rude. You guys want to think? Do you want me to go on this one? I got.
I am giving She-Hulk an 8 out of 10.
Ooh.
I really enjoyed the series.
8 out of 10.
Yes, sir.
Shaka Zulu.
Okay,
That's
no elaboration. Okay,
Well, I mean,
Do you really mean 4/5?
no.
Oh,
Yes. I mean, I wish I
friend.
could remember what I rated the other series, but like I honestly, like, despite the inconsistencies, I feel like start to finish, I probably enjoyed this the most out of all of the MCU series.
whoa.
Man.
I despite the fact that it did feel uneven at times, I don't feel like it had the same issues that most of the other series have as far as like overall structure and pacing and things like that.
Okay.
Because I feel like pretty much all of the other series around the midway point just like totally start sagging and falling apart and like maybe get a little bit better at the end, but then don't always. And I don't know. I felt like She-Hulk, I really enjoyed every episode. I mean, some more than others, but I just thought it was a lot of fun.
Wow. Okay. Justin, you want to go? You want me to go? I don't care.
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay.
And in our discussions leading up to this, to recording this, I remember saying something like, my thoughts on this have flip-flopped multiple times over, since watching
Yeah.
the entire thing. And that's still kind of the case, because I mean, the parts that were good, I did genuinely enjoy. At the parts that weren't so good, I really disliked. So do I even those out and rate it a 5, or does like that ending, does my visceral reaction to that ending, does that count for more negative than the positive parts? So this one is actually hard for me to rate because I respect the fact that it introduced a lot of little side characters into the MCU. I hope some of them come back. The whole like folk, the retreat group, they were
Yeah.
fun. I hope we see more of them somewhere in the future. I liked Jen. I mean, she's not a little side character, but I liked her. In general, I agree with Joe. She had more personality than the script gave her credit for. Daredevil, good to see again. But I keep coming back to the fact that the show didn't know what it wanted to be. If it had stuck with the procedural court stuff, this would have been a nice, refreshing addition to the MCU, where it's like it's a week by week show where you can just sit down, you can watch it, you can enjoy it. It doesn't necessarily tie into anything else. It's just fun escapism, and you get to just have a good time. It didn't stay with that. The character-driven stuff, exploring Jen's life, her dating struggles, her job struggles, trying to make a name for herself instead of a She-Hulk. If they had focused entirely on that, would have also been good. I would have enjoyed that. But it never settled on any one thing, and that really undercuts it for me. So despite the fact that I did like parts of this, I didn't like the show overall because it just never settled, and then it just kind of threw up its hands and said, well, this is the ending. 4 out of 10. I've seen worse shows, I've seen better shows, in general, not necessarily MCU, but this one, at the end of the day, it just didn't sit well with me.
All right. So we got an 8 and a 4 so far. Boy, Justin, what did you say the worst MCU show you've seen is?
Let me think back, because I've seen this one. I've seen.
Well, I can run through my list if it helps you.
Have you seen Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
Not all of it.
Because spoiler, it's not the worst MCU show.
Yeah, I watched an episode or 2 of that, and it's like, if I wanted to see superheroes like apply for loans, I would shoot myself. So yeah, I think that's probably like the worst one out there.
You do work at a financial institution, so there's
that. Yeah, that's true. It's a little close to home.
All right, I'm going to give She-Hulk. This is a tough one because I had a number in my head here. I was just comparing it to another show that's very close on my list here. But I forgot one thing we hadn't really talked about was how many fuck yous they gave the trolls out there in this series. We didn't really talk about that, but they kind of pre-predicted everybody's reaction on these episodes so well, because they were recorded and ready to go, and then the episode would come out.
I knew you were watching, Cody.
This is junk, and then they'd be in the next episode like they all said this was junk. So that part was pretty smart writing.
I will say too, going back to some of the unevenness and stuff, my understanding is that a lot of the tonal inconsistencies and lack of focus is Marvel's fault. That like the studio just kind of kept meddling and trying to like make the show not what the creators really wanted it to be.
Oh.
And that like even to the extent that apparently the first episode was not originally supposed to be the first episode.
Really?
So like they did not originally want to start it with like stereotypical, origin story. So that doesn't change what the final product is, but I think it would be curious if we could know what the like unadulterated version of it would have been without the studio meddling.
Yeah, I think the Eternals had a 20-minute sex scene originally. And then Marvel got in. But anyway,
it was still boring.
I'm boning. It was still boning. I'm gonna give She-Hulk. I do agree that maybe of all the shows so far, this was the most uneven show from episode to episode. I still thought it was very funny in parts. Like I said, I laughed out loud a lot. I thought I didn't really mention, I guess, my thoughts when breaking the fourth wall at the end. I thought that was kind of inventive and creative. And I was like, what's happening? Oh my gosh. So that was kind of neat. But I'm going to give this a very specific number tonight. This is going to be a
69.
7.
Nice.
A 7.2.
Is that a reference to something?
Nope. That's what I think this is at, a 7.2. So on my hierarchy, I have What If at the bottom, Winter Soldier above that, Miss Marvel above that, WandaVision with a 7.0, because I just re-ranked all these, She-Hulk at a 7.2, Moon Knight at a 7.5, Loki at an 8, and still Hawkeye at 9, which is still my favorite. So until something knocks it off.
Okay.
Kate Bishop and Clint Barton are so dreamy, though. And pizza.
Hawkeye was a lot of fun. I will say that. That was a lot of fun.
They did do Kingpin dirty, but that's okay. I'm not down for a Hawaiian shirt Kingpin, but anyway.
Apparently you're down for Moon Knight, which was a pretty fucking messy show, but anyway.
It was, but the comics are also pretty messy for that.
Consistently messy, but yes, it was messy as well. All right, any last thoughts here today, gents?
No.
We're almost back to everybody in live time here because we're recording on Friday and this will come out on Monday again. So
yeah.
Nice.
Wait, two last thoughts. One,
you say the fuck word in here.
You just did.
Yep.
women are perfectly entitled to have sexual feelings and express them however they want.
Even with other women.
2, women are also perfectly entitled to having control of their own reproductive systems and rights.
Uh-oh.
Vote on Tuesday, everybody, is what I'm saying.
Damn straight.
Ooh.
Finally, something we can agree on.
Maybe next week we'll just do a political episode on the fallout.
Oh boy.
Ooh. Well,
If by on the fallout, do you mean from our fallout shelters that we're hiding in the wake of the apocalypse that breaks out?
On Tuesday, as we're watching the results roll in.
Yeah. Well,
Please vote.
enjoy your new governor, boys. Ours is actually getting closer than I would have guessed.
Tutor, I hardly even know her.
I have no doubt a corrupt Democrat will still win in our state, but it's going to be closer than
I
a lot of
mean,
previous
they're gonna
elections, I
get all
believe.
those all the votes from the dead people. So
Vote while you still can.
Vote while your vote still matters.
Yeah. Don't worry. There's a
And
multiverse where we didn't say a universe in the multiverse where we didn't say any of this.
that's
it's
true.
true. That's true.
Cody's looking for a way to
And in
break the fourth wall and climb out of this podcast right now.
in that multiverse, this whole episode and TV show is run by Matt Heinzel.
Oh, man.
Is he our Kevin?
He may be.
Pulling the strings behind the scenes.
No, he's our Madison.
No, that would mean
Anyway.
hanging out with people on occasion.
Oh, good point.
And you saw him this year, didn't you, Cody? Like when you were up in Marquette, maybe?
No, I never touched Pathos when we were over there.
I swear to God, he sent me like a picture of you two together or something.
He just has a very
At some
realistic Cody
point-
mannequin in his house.
Or in Rogers City, maybe? I don't know.
Trying to think. I didn't see him at our town's festival, which is when I usually see him because I wasn't there for that this year. Oh, yes, I was there for that. Yes, he came over to Brett's house
There you go.
the night we did game night. So yes, that is true. We did do that one night.
Nice.
And he didn't sell all of his money and property and Monopoly to somebody for $1 this time. So he's improved since high school. Theme song tonight sang in the style of a disjointed MCU TV show theme song.
All right.
Here we go. Till next time, everybody. We have been friends. Disagree.
Oh no.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.